All right, man, peace. So, future NBA Hall of Famer Paul Pierce recently made the news with his statement that he does not want to have to share his night in regards to his return to Boston and when they raise his jersey to the rafters with Isaiah Thomas and a potential tribute video that they may show for Isaiah Thomas. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Speaking of clutch and the Celtics, Paul Pierce, when he gets honored, he wants him to be honored by himself, no company.
Listen, on February 11th, the night I get my Giant jersey retirement, I'm not sure I want to look up at the Jumbotron to see Isaiah highlights.
Bro,
after all the years I put in.
You don't need to.
And look, I don't blame Paul Pierce for saying that. Paul Pierce was with the Boston Celtics for many years. And he did put in a lot of work with that franchise. And he should not have to share his night with Isaiah Thomas, who, quite frankly, to me, needs to get over whatever hang-up he has in regards to what he believes the Boston Celtics owe him. In my opinion, they don't even owe him a video, Isaiah Thomas. And I think that the whole video tribute thing has gone too far in the NBA, where now every player who gets traded, when they go back to their previous franchise, they feel like they feel like that it should be the obligation of their former team to show them some type of tribute video. And the tribute video thing really started in the late 80s, early 90s, when many of the great players that came into the NBA in the late 70s started to retire. You know, when Kareem retired, when Dr. J retired, and then Larry Bird retired in 92. You know, they went on tours all across the NBA where various franchises, gave them gifts and showed tribute videos. And of course, they had one last big tribute in their home arena. That's how that whole thing started. And somehow it's mushroomed into this phenomenon where every player, no matter how good or even marginal, believes that their previous franchise owes them some form of a tribute video. And Isaiah Thomas, I understand that he's dealing with a lot of different psychoses because of his lack of height and the fact that he was picked last in the draft. But to be quite honest with you, being picked last in the NBA draft is not like being picked last in the Major League Baseball draft, where they have like 1,000 rounds. In the NBA, you only have 2 rounds. So to be 5'8", 5'8.5", however tall he is, and to be picked, whatever number he was picked, number 64 or number 60, whatever number he was, that certainly is not an indignity. That actually is a great achievement to be of his stature and still get selected to play in the NBA. And once again, the Boston Celtics certainly do not owe him anything. If anything, he owes them. He went to a franchise with a great coach that decided to feature him on the offense. And of course, he took advantage of it. But many other franchises would not have had the level of coach that would have had the foresight and the basketball acumen to say, you know what, let's make him the head of the spear or the tip of the spear. So I believe that it pretty much was an even trade. No pun intended. I don't believe that anybody owes anyone anything. And to get back to the point, the truth, Paul Pierce certainly is well within his rights to not want to have to share his night with Isaiah Thomas, a person who really did not accomplish anything with the Boston Celtics. He had a great season. He had 2 good years. He never won anything. Move forward with your life.
You don't need to share it with nobody.
I had a chance to watch Kobe's, and throughout the games, the timeouts, there was a lot of tribute videos for him, and
Well, here's where the problem comes in. And I agree with Paul that he should have his night all to himself, but he keeps trying to compare himself to Kobe Bryant. And he's not Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is an all-time top 15, top 20 player. Paul Pierce is not that. Kobe Bryant is a 5-time world champion. Paul Pierce is not that. Kobe Bryant is a scoring extraordinaire, one of the top 3 to 4 players of the last 20, 25 years. That's Kobe Bryant. He's somewhere in there, top 3, anywhere from top 3 to top 5. I would have to sit down and think about it. Just thinking off the top of my head right now, I would say, of course, Jordan, LeBron, Shaq, Tim Duncan, and then probably Kobe. Kobe probably be, number 5 in the last 25 years of NBA basketball. Well, you know what? I can't even say that. I'd have to put him 6 because I have to put Akeem over him. Yeah, Akeem would have to go over him. So Kobe, still great achievement to be top 6. Paul Pierce is not that. Paul Pierce, maybe in the last 25 years, is a top 25 player. top 20. Either way, he needs to stop trying to compare himself to Kobe Bryant because he's not Kobe.
And I enjoyed to watch that throughout the game. Now, hopefully, the Boston Celtics will do that for me. I'm not sure if I want to see an Isaiah video that night.
And let me also say this before Paul starts talking. It does have to be weighed or it does have to be acknowledged that Paul needed the Boston Celtics to bring 2 other Hall of Famers onto his team for him to win a championship. And it's debatable if he was actually the leader of that team. Because for all intents and purposes, Kevin Garnett became the de facto leader of that team. We know that the truth is given the credit for being the leader because it was his franchise. But anyone who understands Kevin Garnett and how he operates, Kevin Garnett has a super alpha personality. And he commandeered that defense, and he helped Rondo in regards to making sure everybody was in the right place on offense. Kevin Garnett did that. Paul Pierce is also an alpha, but let's be for real. They never did anything when he was leading the team. They had a little blip when him and Antoine Walker were there together in the early 2000s, but they never did anything. So, once again, you're not Kobe. Just stop.
Paul Pierce joining us now.
Smiling.
I know, look at you, ready to go in. Have you heard from the Celtics since you said what you said yesterday?
Yeah, we had a chance. We had a little bit of dialogue, and we talked about it. And, it's not every day you get your jersey retired. This is a once-in-a-lifetime deal. And to me, this is like the crowning achievement for me on my career and what I was able to accomplish over my 19 years. So I just think it's only right, just to have a night to myself to be honored and go up in the Raptors.
Yeah, not that you need my approval, Truth, but I actually agree with you. Now, Jimmy Butler has been he's been with the T-Wolves.
And I agree as well. Before they go into the T-Wolves topic, I definitely agree. Paul Pierce should not have to share his night with Isaiah Thomas. I guess Isaiah Thomas will have to go in the locker room and cry about that too. Because no, sorry. If Isaiah Thomas is lucky, he'll be a Hall of Famer. If he's lucky. If he can put together 5 or 6 more seasons of 25 a game, and please keep in mind he's about to turn 30, then they might consider him for the Hall, looking at his stature or lack thereof and what he was able to accomplish in the NBA. But Paul Pierce, a person who was with the Boston Celtics all the way from, I believe he was drafted in 98 or 99, and left there in the early 2010s, he should not have to share his night with Isaiah Thomas, no.
And check out this stat. He's one of 5 players to average 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists per game since the start of December. And the other 4 are all MVPs. Russ, LeBron, KD, Steph Curry. We're starting to hear MVP talk for Jimmy Butler.
No, we not. We ain't hearing no damn MVP talk for Jimmy Butler. Stop making that shit up. Jimmy Butler is a very good to borderline great two-way player. But we're not hearing no MVP talk about Jimmy Butler, so that's a damn lie. Jimmy Butler's, if we were to take a poll, to rank Jimmy Butler in regards to MVP candidates, he probably would just scratch the top 10 because you didn't even have Giannis on that list. So nothing against it or Kyrie. So nothing against Jimmy Butler, but his team is going to have to get a lot better for him to even be mentioned in regards to possibly being an MVP candidate. And James Harden wasn't on that list either.
What do you think about that?
I think Jimmy Butler has definitely established himself as an elite player. We didn't know how he would kind of mesh with the young guys, knowing that Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins, these guys were the leading scorers, but it seems like he waited like 15, 20 games, and he's like, all right, guys, I gave y'all a chance. It's time for me to step up as the leader of this team.
I agree with the truth on that one. I think that Jimmy Butler waited a couple of months to see what Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns were going to do. And then he realized that he's the only person on the team with any real leadership experience on a team that was moderately successful. He's the only one with any playoff experience. So he understood that he has to take the bull by the horns and lead the team. Because Wiggins, even if he may eventually be ready to lead the team, he's not right now. Nor is Karl Anthony Towns. And you have Jeff Teague, who is a serviceable point guard, who shows flashes of being an impactful player, but it's very, very obvious that it's Jimmy Butler's team and that it has to be in order for them to be successful.
And take over, and ever since he's been doing that, they've been playing well, they've been winning, and he's been looking like an MVP candidate.
All right, Paul, thanks for joining us. And since you cheated spades, I'm sure you love it.
When we gonna get our spade game back? Me and Rondo beat y'all too.
No,
so.
you cheated.
You cheated.
No way.
No, the truth
No
is a cheater.
But anyway, that was the issue with Paul Pierce. Once again, I definitely agree with him, and I'm sure that when he spoke with the Boston Celtics about that issue, that they told him, Paul, we're going to hook you up. Don't worry about it. They're most likely going to find a way to show Isaiah Thomas's video, probably during the pregame warm-ups or something like that, or maybe even before that. Who knows? Or after the game. Who knows? But I'm sure that they're going to give the truth all the spotlight that he wants and yearns for. Please keep in mind that Paul Pierce was never viewed as a top-line superstar, even during his era. But he was a player that helped carry the NBA during that dark period of the early 2000s when everybody was playing hero ball, trying to copy Jordan. And it was really an era of very ugly NBA basketball. And were it not for the Lakers and exciting teams like the Kings and the Mavericks, the NBA would the NBA really that really would have been perilous times for the NBA, because very few people remember the situation that the NBA was in after Jordan retired. They went through a lockout. They had a shortened season in the 98-99 season. They had one of the lowest ratings probably since before Magic and Bird, with the San Antonio Spurs, New York Knicks finals. And they needed the Lakers to bring the league back a little bit like they did the next season, and then kind of carry the league for a few years until the NBA kind of figured out what they needed to do to clean up their image. That's when they brought in the dress code to nullify the Allen Iverson effect, where everybody was trying to be a thug. And then, of course, that kind of helped them through that little dark period until Kobe's Lakers rose up again in the late 90s, in the late 2000s. And then, of course, they were able to get LeBron over to Miami. And, that's when the NBA kind of figured out what they wanted their business plan to be and what style of play they wanted to have in the NBA. That's also why they brought in the zone. And I got into this in a conversation with a couple of these guys in the comments who stated that the NBA brought in the zone, and it was, they claimed that the NBA brought in the zone because they wanted to stop the hero ball, and that's partly true. But they also wanted to raise the scoring. They wanted to bring back moving the ball so that they could raise the scoring. Scoring in the early 2000s was abysmal. A lot of the teams struggled to even score 100 points. Most of your star players were shooting in the low 40s. Why? Because all they were doing was trying to go 1-on-3. And Paul Pierce was one of those guys. Look at some of the shooting percentages of many of the great players, many of the great wing players in the late 90s, early 2000s, from like 99 to about 2004. It was very customary for those guys to be shooting 40%, 41%. Paul Pierce, McGrady, Kobe Bryant, of course, Allen Iverson, who had at least 1 year of shooting under 40%. Vince Carter. Those guys were, hovering around the 40% shooting percentage. And those were your top guys in the NBA. That was a very, very rough period for the NBA. And a lot of people don't realize that. Then you had the Malice at the Palace in, I believe, 03 or 04. So when the Phoenix Suns came with that higher pace style, that also was a big boost to the NBA. And I think that they realized that was going to be the blueprint for how they wanted all the other teams to play, to bring back that Lakers-Celtics vibe from the mid-'80s. And, of course, as I already stated, when you had the Kobe Bryant Lakers who came to the forefront in the late 2000s, and then, of course, you had LeBron go to Miami. And along that same time period, the Dallas Mavericks ended the hero ball era when they swept the Lakers. And that's why we're at where we're at right now with the NBA. But Paul Pierce was an integral part in that era of the 2000s. You know, players like him and Ray Allen, Vince Carter. You know, they were kind of that second tier of NBA star. You know, with the top tier being guys like, of course, Kobe and Shaq, Allen Iverson, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan. But, you know, he definitely was integral. And he also played in, to me, one of the great NBA All-Star games, that 2001 All-Star game with Iverson and Stephon Marbury coming through in the clutch in those final moments of that All-Star game. But anyway, congratulations to the Truth. Peace.